Halloween is one of the most popular holidays, celebrated by millions every October 31st. Kids dress up in costumes, people carve pumpkins, and neighborhoods fill with spooky decorations. But did you know that Halloween's history is far more complex and interesting than just costumes and candy? Let's dive into the fascinating origins of this spooky holiday that many people don't know about. Ancient roots. The Celtic festival of Samhain. The story of Halloween begins over 2,000 years ago with the Celts, a group of people who lived in what is now Ireland, the UK, and northern France. They celebrated a festival called Samhain, pronounced Samhain, on October 31st. This festival marked the end of the harvest season and the beginning of winter, often referred to as the dark half of the year. The Celts believed that during Samhain, the boundary between the living and the dead became blurred. On this night, the spirits of the dead could walk among the living. Some spirits were friendly, but others were dangerous. To protect themselves, the Celts wore masks and costumes to disguise themselves and blend in with the spirits. Sound familiar? That's right. This is one of the early influences of modern-day Halloween costumes. The role of fire. Fire played a huge role in the Samhain festival. The Celts would build huge bonfires where they burned crops and animals as sacrifices to their gods. The bonfires were believed to have protective powers, and people would gather around them for warmth and safety from wandering spirits. In fact, the word bonfire comes from bone fire because animal bones were often thrown into the flames. Families would take a piece of the sacred fire home to relight their hearths, believing that it would protect their homes during the harsh winter months. The Romans get involved. Around 43 AD, the Romans conquered most of the Celtic lands. As the Roman Empire expanded, they adopted and blended many local customs into their own festivals. One such festival was Feralia, a Roman holiday in late October to honor the dead. Another was a festival dedicated to Pomona, the Roman goddess of fruit and trees. Pomona's symbol was the apple, which is why many historians believe that bobbing for apples became a part of Halloween traditions later on. Christianity and All Saints' Day. By the 9th century, Christianity had spread across Celtic lands, and the church wanted to replace pagan festivals with Christian ones. In 835 AD, Pope Gregory IV declared November 1st as All Saints' Day, a day to honor saints and martyrs. The night before became known as All Hallows' Eve, which eventually morphed into the word Halloween. In many ways, All Hallows' Eve was designed to erase the pagan Samhain festival. However, people didn't let go of their old traditions so easily. Instead, they combined their Celtic customs with the Christian holiday. Bonfires, costumes, and celebrations of the dead continue to be a part of the festivities. Trick-or-treating surprising origins. One of the best parts of Halloween for kids today is going door-to-door for candy. But did you know that trick-or-treating has ancient origins too? During medieval times in Europe, people practiced something called souling. Poor people would go door-to-door on All Souls' Day, November 2nd, offering to pray for the souls of the dead in exchange for food. They were given small cakes called soul cakes. As time went on, children started taking part in this practice. Instead of offering prayers, they would sing songs or recite poetry for treats. This evolved into the trick-or-treat tradition we know today. Another tradition that contributed to trick-or-treating was mumming. This was a custom in which people dressed up in costumes and performed for their neighbors. In return, they were given food and drink. Over the centuries, these customs blended to become the door-to-door candy hunt we enjoy now. The rise of the jack-o'-lantern. What about jack-o'-lanterns? The original jack-o'-lanterns were not made from pumpkins. Instead, the Irish used turnips and potatoes to carve out scary faces. The story behind the jack-o'-lantern comes from Irish folklore, involving a man named Stingy Jack. According to legend, Jack was a clever trickster who tricked the devil into promising that he would never take Jack's soul. When Jack eventually died, he couldn't go to heaven because of his wicked ways, and he couldn't go to hell because of the deal he made with the devil. Instead, Jack was doomed to wander the earth with only a burning coal inside a carved-out turnip to light his way. People in Ireland would carve scary faces into turnips to ward off Jack's wandering spirit. When Irish immigrants came to America in the 1800s, they discovered that pumpkins were much easier to carve than turnips. This is how the pumpkin jack-o'-lantern tradition was born. Halloween in America. Speaking of Irish immigrants, they played a huge role in bringing Halloween to America. During the Irish potato famine in the 1840s, many Irish people came to the United States, bringing their Halloween traditions with them. At first, Halloween was mainly celebrated by Irish and Scottish communities. But by the late 1800s, it started to spread throughout the country. During the early 1900s, Halloween was mostly about community parties, parades, and games. However, by the 1950s, it transformed into the family-friendly holiday we know today. Trick-or-treating became more common, and costumes started to be mass-produced. The commercialization of Halloween. Halloween has become big business. Today, Americans spend billions of dollars each year on candy, costumes, and decorations. The holiday has transformed from a night of ancient rituals to a modern celebration of all things spooky and fun. While the ghosts and goblins of Halloween might be scary, its history is rich, fascinating, and filled with unexpected twists. Next time you carve a pumpkin or dress up in a costume, remember that you're taking part in traditions that go back thousands of years to the Celts and the Romans.